Hello, and welcome to the Sovereign Collective podcast, where we bring you real, raw truth for your self-empowerment. I'm your host, Fascia, and I believe that you can stand on your own 2 feet, but that you don't have to do it alone. I love learning from people who continually strive to raise the bar, to go against mainstream thinking, and who dare to question the general consensus. People who risk being ridiculed or even risk the loss of their professional status as they bravely question the common narratives and challenge the rest of us to expand our minds and to reconsider what we think we already know. Join me in learning how to take control of your health and your mind so that you can have the energy to think more clearly and the confidence to step up and take responsibility for all aspects of your life. We promise to never censor here because I believe you are strong enough to hear the real, raw truth to make up your own mind. If you like what you find here at the Sovereign Collective podcast, then please share with your friends and family. I so appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. And now, on to the show. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing once again Rahe of GST Body, and we get more into the topic of fascia, a mind-blowing topic really that applies to everyone. And that's why I love interviews like these, where they apply to everyone regardless of who we are, what we do, or individual needs. We are all put together with fascia. And if our fascia is unhealthy, we are unhealthy, both in body and mind. And so listen up. If you haven't heard about fascia and all of its wondrous traits, listen to episode number 73. That's the first interview that I have with Anna. And then come on over to this one and learn more about the importance of fascia and taking care of it and how you can support your body in all ways simply through the fascia, which connects everything to everything else. And also, why don't you head on over to sovereigncollective.org/shop and check out some of the great products that I have there on a discount for you. I have coupon codes for Cultivate Elevate, for New Earth Organics, Tonic Herbs. Also, it's not on my site right now, but if you're interested in getting a Brown's Gas machine, I have a code for that, TSC50. So there's all sorts of great things that you can get access to. Living Libation Skincare, you can get it for a discount, and it's a win-win situation. So check that out as well. And now on to the interview, and please share it with your friends and family because everyone needs to hear about the importance of healthy fascia. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sovereign Collective podcast. I am super stoked to once again have a returning guest. Her name is Rahe, and I know some of you know who she is because I got lots of great feedback from the last interview with her, and we're going to be talking about the fantastic world of fascia because there's so much to go into. So I don't care how old you are, what your diet is, where you live. Yes, we're all individuals and we are all connected from within with our fascia. And if our fascia is unhealthy, then we're unhealthy. We're not going to work properly. We're not going to think properly. We're not going to move properly. We're not everything. So it is this connective matrix that creates the oneness of who we are in body and mind. And Anna, when you listen to her, if you haven't listened to the first interview, go to number 73. That's the first interview with Anna where we go into her story. So we're not going to go into her story today. We're going to go into a bunch of other stuff that she touched on last time that we didn't have a chance to get into. So go back and listen to that one and learn about her story, learn about how she became such a master at understanding the fascial system because she is. You know from her, the way she speaks, that she just integrates this into her life. And it is just a lifelong endeavor for her. And we are so lucky to be able to share in all the work that she did, stemming out of some great pain many, many, many years ago. So thank you again, Anna, for being here today. I am super stoked to continue this discussion. You touched on so many different things last time. Oh, microbiome. Oh, brain. Oh, adrenals. Oh, just so many different things. I'm like, oh, well, what about that? What about that? So we need to discuss that. So for people that might not go back to the first one, can you just quickly touch on, in general, what fascia is, why people need to be interested in it, and then let's go into some more specifics, please.
Perfect. Fascia is a type of body tissue. Its true significance comes not from the tissue lens, but from a full body, comprehensive body lens that actually integrates and in many ways governs every other body system. For those of you who don't know what a body system is, it's like your digestive system. It comes with multiple organs. Your cardiovascular systems comes with a bunch of different parts. The endocrine system is your hormone cocktail. So your body has all these systems that keeps it working and optimized. And fascia is the system that is literally venerated, wrapped around, wrapping through, and is involved in all of your other body systems. And so it becomes really significant, not just as a way to stay healthy in our body, but also its connection to our mind, our emotions, our like physical experience as humans on this planet in our carbon life form. And so there's a lot of different, like you pointed out, a lot of different avenues or branches in this tree that you can kind of go down from a very physiological standpoint all the way into a psychological and spiritual standpoint. So you kind of can choose the fruit you want to bite and then go down a rabbit hole and be like, oh, you mean it does this? You mean it does this? And so one of my favorite questions that people ask after they hear a podcast that I'm on is, I have this thing. Could it be related? I have this weird thing. Could it be related? And my answer is, do a deep dive. It's most likely somehow related. And it's kind of this missing piece that everybody surfacely, diagnoses in isolation, right? The gastroenterologist is the specialist of this, and a psychologist is the specialist of this, and a neurologist is the specialist of this. And there's places and values for that because there's so much to know that a specialist really can know more than ever I could. But what we're missing is that there's a generalist approach that is very, we kind of touch in on it with integrative medicine, but fascia just gives us this or the connective tissue system gives us this integrating system to include in our perspective. And it really changes how we kind of understand things. And we're still, every time I do a podcast, I just want to put this out there that it's like we're just on the frontier, this new frontier of fascial like science research. And we know some of what it does. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea it did this. And I had no idea that this did. So I have to be cautious because I have been doing this for 25 years and I have a lot of like, I think it does this. And I say it with such assurance. I'm like, this is the way it is. And then I'm like, well, I should probably make sure that I have some research behind that because just because I have 25 years of clinical experience, it's not to downplay that, but I think we're just, to admit that we are on this new frontier is really exciting. So you might hear me say more than I did in my first interview. I don't actually know that, but here's what I've experienced in the last 25 years. And I think science will eventually catch up and reveal or be corrective. That's what science is supposed to do, is help us correct our understanding. So
Right.
that's what fascia is, and that's what it does.
And that is an amazing thing. And yes, we have these specialists, but the problem is they've got all these blinders on and they don't see the interconnectedness of the body. And that comes to a problem. Like they'll never tell you that the problem with your toe is connected to the problem with your ear. They don't see it as a one whole body. So this fascial system, it just freaking blows me away. And you have decided through your experience to approach it through a movement method, because there's lots of other methods. There's balls and blocks and exercises and movement and vibrating machines and all sorts of holds and positions, things like that.
Yeah.
Right? So you decided to do, and one thing you talked about, so let's just get into the whole movement thing first, because you say that junk movement, like junk food, leads to junk fascia. And so we're living in a world that's very unnatural, a lot of sedentary lifestyles, but with, say, maybe some short, intense 1 hour sessions at the gym, a few times a week.
That's right.
So how is our exercise these days impacting our fascia? And what is it good for it? Is it bad for it? Does it depend?
Yeah. Such a good question. I draw a lot of parallels for people because we're much more willing and adept at like advancing our understanding of diet and nutrition. We're like, oh, if this diet's going to do this and this nutrition would do this, and this is like it's much more like seasoned because we've been doing it for 50 years, but no one's really critically analyzed our movement habits ever, right? I think the newest thing that there's ever been that's truly new, not just a fad or not just a reboxing of different kinds of like jazzercise is really like TA, like it's the same thing.
Right.
It's just packaged differently, right? So, the most authentic was probably Joseph Pilates, who started to try to like make something different for movement and really be innovative. And fascia really points us in a different direction. So for helping the listener understand, we kind of live in this world of fast fitness the way we live in a world of fast food. And fitness has to fit into our busy lifestyles. It has to be pretty manic. So from that perspective, we are eating poorly throughout our days, right? I call it block eating, where it's like if someone told you you need to eat all 2,500 calories in one sitting, people would look at you and be like, "That's not what I've heard. I think that kind of feels like bullshit." And you're like, "Well, right." But yeah, we do that with our movement. We're like, okay, all of your movement has to fit into this block chunk of
Yeah.
hour a day because that's all you have. And you sit and then you go out, and it's very scorching and very traumatizing and bad for your fascia. So there's the lifestyle approach that has negative ramifications. Then there's additional things like fast food has bad ingredients. So inside our movement practices, most of the movement practices contain toxic ingredients for fascia. So you have what's equivalent of like high fructose corn syrup or bad, fats, saturated, polyunsaturated, blah, blah, blah. It just goes on. And we know these terms, but we don't understand that like core, the way that we teach it and the way that we understand it is completely bad for the body. The way that we isolate and tone is incredibly damaging to fascia. So we can kind of analyze what we're doing, the ingredients of our workout more critically. That's never been, available to us. And I kind of often laugh like, what would the Surgeon General's warnings be against exercise? Right now, we've like marginalized our approach to movement, being just like, let your watch count how many steps, right? How low and debase is that when movement is argumentatively or argumentally, I can't find the word, is actually like literally more important even to your biochemistry than the food you eat. Your basic elemental system that is required for delivering nutrients, providing hydration, cellular, micronutrients, all of that is actually dependent on your fascia. There's bioavailability that fascia regulates through the ECM, and there's different organs and the way that fascia metabolizes our chemicals in our body, our neurotransmitters, our hormones, the food we eat. And so movement becomes much more than just, I think that more important even than what you eat. People are going to absolutely shoot me for that. But in a sense of importance, we can't marginalize our movement anymore. And it can't just be, you got to move. You got to count steps. Try to get in 10,000 steps. It's
Yeah.
like,
That's
that is not providing the movement that actually affects the tissues of your heart. That doesn't affect the tissues of your esophagus. That doesn't like open up the valves of your lymphatic system up in your collarbones. How are you breathing? Like that has tons of movement elements in it, mechanical moving parts that have to be addressed. And what fascia is showing us is that the gross motor movements of our workouts are actually directly synchronized to our deeper physiological micro movements inside our body. Okay. So if you think about continuum is kind of a big theme in fascia land, that it's like if you drop a rock in a pond, the circle that the rock made is the same circle in a smaller version than the ripples that move out to the shoreline. The movements that you do are the ones hitting the shoreline. These movements, but they come from and influence the way a cell is actually moving, the way that a tissue is being held and pulled, the way that the fibers of your organs are creating motility, creating movement on the inside, visceral motility. And so we can interrupt that continuum where we do out here these junk moves and it restricts all of the finer and interrupts finer synchronized movements in our physiology that are very important beyond just counting your steps to our actual health of tissue, cellular remodeling, all of those things.
so if somebody is listening to this and they work out and they're like, I'm even thinking about how to introduce this to my 16-year-old son. He's
Yeah.
strong as hell. He's
Yeah.
fit. And he loves his body, but I want to help him create a healthy body that doesn't just look healthy and fit and lean.
Who cares if
So,
you've got a Lamborghini if it can't drive 130?
right. So how do we integrate some like would you do a bit of both? Would you only work on fascial movements? Can you integrate strength training into the fascial? Would you do just is it combined? Like How does that all work
Good
together?
question. The biggest answer to your question is that we have to change the branch of science that we are applying to our biomechanics. For the listener, I'm trying to get better at just like refining the message of simplification, but you have to know a couple things. Physics is the study of the way forces impact substances. You have solid bodies, which are like the car, the table, a chair, a cup, solid. Then you have fluid bodies, which are like the ocean and water. And so gravity impacts two things differently. Fascia is a unique substance in that it is more water. It's 70% water and 30% fiber, approximately. That means that your fascia behaves more like a fluid than a solid. And what we do in all of our mechanics, so just the idea of going out and moving is nobody thinks about it this way, is actually a mechanical action. We are lifting a weight, creating load into our tissue, and then that load has to go somewhere, has to distribute. We associate load with good strength, right? Resistance training. These are some of these other categories, but they're all the same. Load comes into the body, it has to be dissolved, diluted, distributed, and shared, and then it has to move and release through the body. When we start thinking about movement, we have to change from a biomechanical model of solid mechanics, which is like my arm is a lever, my muscles are a pulley, and I move like a lever and pulley, very linear, very tightening, shortening the muscle
Yeah.
bicep, trying to get a nice deltoid, trying to get my triceps to activate. Isolating and toning is solid principles. And we need to look at fluid dynamics. When you move, how is your water being directed? How are the fibers bending and flexing and deflecting and moving the water in your body? Not to go deep into the science, but what is organizing and cellularly remodeling fascia is the movement of the water inside your body. You can get a lot of contouring, like a lot of sculpting, right? That's a word from our general fitness. You can do it in a very similar, you can get the same results with a very different way, right? Instead of trying to add muscle on solid mechanics, think about the way that you would sculpt something with clay. The solid mechanic is I take more solid clay and I add it on and I try to like define where that clay is going to be. And fascia says, actually, run your water like this, and you're going to get a channel around your deltoid, and it's going to reveal more of the muscle system. So it's more like, what can we remove versus what can we add in? And that changes the way that we see movement because water wants to behave really differently than a solid, right? Water wants to splash and flush and push and surge, and it requires a lot more dynamics. And so the first thing people need to understand is switching our mindset of science to how we're going to see movement and what movement requires. Then you have to kind of know that's my job. That's why people come and learn is that educators like myself need to start teaching in the language and in the principles of fluid dynamics. Displace this water here. Try to contract in a way that actually will compress and move the water here. Now, in order to do that, let's make it applicable to someone.
Okay.
Number one, if you're going to the gym, you need to see your body more as tubes than sticks. Okay. Your arms and the way that fascia forms in its layered. Oh, I even have this handy thing. If you're watching the video, this is kind of the way that fascia is formed. It's like that Chinese finger toy. It's woven. Okay.
Okay.
And it's a tube. It structures in like these kind of aqueduct tubes. And this on the micro level would be like a tiny little tube of fascia that goes over one single fiber of a muscle. And then you add another one to the next fiber and the next fiber, and they all have fascia in the fibers. And then you put a bigger sleeve on that makes a bundle. And then that bundle adds up to another grouping of the organ, and that organ adds up to the other organ. So it's this highway of aqueducts that moves things. When you do things like training a solid core, you don't keep the integrity of your tubes. You bend them and you kink them, and it sends and restricts the flow of water through your systems. So, one of the easiest ways to improve your workouts for fascia is to lift your rib cage. Keep your upper body suspended rather than trying to connect your ribs to your hips. All the time we do these crunches. It's an interesting history. There's a history of working out, but there's this interesting history that around the early late 60s, early 70s is when bodybuilders were trying to find a way to really accentuate their rectus abdominis muscles. That's the six pack on the front of your body. And so what was taken from a calisthenic movement of a full sit up, where your spine goes from laying flat to curling forward and laying all the way back flat. That's a very long range of motion. It's called flexion and extension of the spine. The bodybuilders came and they said, I actually can activate the rectus abdominis if I only activate 30% of my range of motion. So all of a sudden, they developed this thing called a crunch. And this crunch started to shorten the torso and tighten the front line of fascia, enhancing the primitive primal kind of ape-like posturing that we see in our sit-all posture. If you
Right.
tighten all of the muscles on your front body,
Right.
overextend the back body, it puts pressure into your adrenal glands. There's a whole anthropological insight to what that influences. But we were never meant to do crunches. They do not strengthen your core. They do not access the deeper muscles of the core. The way we define core is only in muscles and tissues in the lower hemisphere of the body, not the upper. So there's like a bunch of different things that we could just implement right away of like, extend your rib cage, stop doing your core. You'll get a better set of abs if you start extending your spine. You'll be less adrenal. Another problem with our fast fitness is that it's over adrenalizing of our tissues. Adrenaline is the primary chemical hormone of your stress response, right? It's the getaway. It feeds your muscles to make them your getaway car. Fascia is wired to your endorphins. It's the relax, rest, and digest. So when you target movements that activate the fascia, you're actually putting your body's physiology in a better state. This has nothing to do with your strength. You can lift more with the power of your fascia than you can with the power of a muscle. Muscles fatigue. They have shorter endurance. They can't push as much. Yes, fascia strengthens as it lengthens. You know that feeling of like when the fingers get locked in the thing? So the longer you pull fascia, the stronger you get. It has 10 times the tensile strength, meaning the ability to carry load in vertical gravity, than muscle tissue. So if you train for fascial principles, you're naturally increasing your strength without having to do as much.
Right.
Okay.
And you're talking, and I remember you saying these are long ranges of motion. It's like squishing and pulling and that
Yeah.
syringe motion
It
and the
becomes a
swing, the
syringe.
twisting,
That's right.
right?
Sure. The
Yes.
push and pull of those tubes is a syringe type action, which is the basic element of, or the simplest understanding of hydraulics.
Right. And it feels so good when you start doing that. I'm not doing it every hour like I'm supposed to be, but in the morning and just the specific times of the day, it's like, oh, you just get in and you want to squish it and then you want to stretch it. It feels so good. But I want to talk more because I made a note here about what you were just saying. The antidote. So what you had said last time, it's the antidote to the adrenal response, and then it's endorphin based, which is, and that the muscles are adrenal based. So I think that's a really important thing to unpack in this world where people are overstressed, doing too much. And we have these really confused ideas of how we're supposed to manage our life. I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
And so I think this is a really important part as that antidote to balance things out. Can you unpack that a little bit more about the endorphins?
Yeah, that's a great thing. So there's a couple things that to unpack. Number one, a muscular system, when you live muscularly driven, you are constantly in a state of adrenal activity. Muscles cannot suspend. You know, the athlete that knows this the most are rock climbers. They cannot power through their muscular system, else they'll fall off the rock.
Huh.
And
Okay.
yet, most of our sports, especially in the children that we have, 16-year-olds, are really, they're conditioning adrenal response, linear movements that are adrenal. And then they're like, why did the, ACL tear?
Right.
Because you didn't train in multi-directional dimensional movements, and there's a bunch of stuff. So we sit in a body that is literally a soup of hormone cocktail, and it's creating a summation of our experiences. What that just basically means is like we have an experience, and the only way to translate it is through this cocktail that goes through our tissues, translates to the brain. The brain then transcribes it, and they're like, oh, this is fear. This is loss of job. This is depression. This is anxiety. And our mental health is directly related to our fascia. And so all of a sudden, what we're doing in our movement is we're actually amplifying our adrenal state. So we live adrenal, right? We sit all day. We have emotional stress happening, but movement is not happening to process the hormone cocktail. It's kind of like what came first. There's a really amazing woman named, I think her name is Annie Cuddy. She's a sociologist who studied um, kind of the physiological impact of body movement or the psychological impact of physiology. So she was the one who came out and said, when you are a racer, why at the end of the race, when you're the winner, do your arms just fly up? Why is that? And that's because it's elicited by the chemical elation, expression of elation and victory. And she reverse engineered that and said, could you get that feeling? Can you create the hormone by doing the action? If I throw my arms up, can my body produce it?
Mm.
There's still a lot of talk and conversation about it and how legitimate it is, but I have experienced that is very true. That you can, by taking a certain action, change the physiological outcome. It's a very cyclical loop. And so what happens, in the imbalance, I think what happens in the imbalance is that we're busy sitting doing nothing. Our body is having experiences, right? We're producing the chemical experience, but we're not producing the action to metabolize it.
Oh, interesting.
Your body has to move to metabolize the emotions in the system as they're expressed in the chemistry of your body. When you don't sit, it just sits there and it's stagnant and it pools. That's why like the fastest way to get out of depression is to literally throw your arms back over a chair, take 3 deep breaths, and it will trigger your parasympathetic response. Your brain gets oxygen, and all of a sudden your stress load moves. It's a movement that puts the physiological structures into the right orientation with action to move that through you. People don't really think about it that way. But when we then get all day stewed up, we think we're going to go burn off our stresses by getting on a treadmill, by lifting heavy weight. And we actually are going into adrenal fatigue. Beyond the adrenal stress is adrenal fatigue, where the cortisol is no longer actually just sustaining you. You've burned through the cortisol and you're right, exhausted. You're done. And so the idea is that we want the movement to be medicinal in 2 ways, right? Medicine is just metabolizing our experiences in a healthy, normal rate, as is in real time. We don't want to have our stresses carried home with us. So you need to actually move your body throughout your day to handle and metabolize your day. But then we also don't want to add to that stress. We don't want to go to the gym and actually try to secrete more adrenaline to burn it out, because that ends up like leaving you obliterated on a couch. All you want to do is reach for your glass of wine, your ice cream container, and just veg in front of a show because you can't deal. And that's a sign that your body is actually not restored by your workout.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
actually tipped you over that point. And so there's 2 ways to address this. One is make sure that you're doing stress relieving metabolic motion throughout your day, that your body is pushing, pulling, pumping, not because it's a fitness thing to do, not because you have to get your workout in. It's because your body needs to do that in order for you to lose your stress, right? It's de-stressing, anti-stressing to do that. Then when you go to the gym, you would do further movements that actually take that calorie count down. Here's another way to think about it. Our stress load is like counting calories. How many calories have you consumed in stress in your day? How much are you eating your stress from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed? You need to actually neutralize that caloric counting, that stress, right? So you want something at the end of your day that will take down the stress calculator rather than adding to the stress calculator. And fascia is the fastest way to do that. Things like extending your spine rather than doing crunches. Those are counter moves. The extension of your spine is like arching in cobra in yoga, right? When you lift your ribs, you're decompressing your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands sit right at an area where a woman's bra line is, if you can picture that. It's the equal distance between your fingertips and your toes if you're standing outright.
Oh, okay.
This equator or equatorial line divides the body into physiological equal halves. It's really interesting how the intelligence of the body has been designed, but you have adrenal glands that sit right next to your kidneys. Kidneys help to break it down, digest it, figure it out, and the adrenal glands secrete. So one's a production and one's a destruction, right? They're taking it down and they work together. So in this chemical cocktail, they're set in the middle of your body and they put you into action of running at equal times. When we sit all day, you're actually mechanically loading, it's called mechanical loading, your adrenal belt. And you're stimulating adrenal response, like a slow drip of your adrenal glands, which locks down your diaphragm so you can't breathe, which decreases your ability to take in fresh oxygen, which is stress inducing, anxiety inducing. And so one of the fastest ways to just get out of that state is to do the opposite. Instead of curling into a fetal protective position, sit all day, crunches, same shape.
Right.
Just do the opposite. Arch over your chair, reach and lift your chest. Go into your desk. I'm going to just show you this. Lean on your desk and arch. Shrug your shoulders. Dropping your diaphragm puts the physiology of your body into a more parasympathetic, not more, just an into parasympathetic mode. It turns off that stress relationship. So those are like really simple hacks. And if you start doing it, you're actually going to want to. You're going to crave it. You're going to be like, gosh, my boss just came in and I want to throw daggers his way. I'm just going to I have to move my body. And it's
Yeah.
in you. Like your 16-year-old, watch his behavior. He does it like I watch my 2-year-old too. He's a little boy.
Yeah.
And man, when he is mad, he goes and does movement. He has to physically do something about the chemicals that are surging through his tissues.
Yes.
And we just lost the ability to do that. And there can be, I think we can expand on deep philosophical things of like, what are society's requirements and why don't we emotionally, express and why are we,
That,
over
well, they're taught to sit still in
grateful?
school all day, right?
Right.
Without these, I mean, there's recess, but it's not nice for a
So much
small
sitting,
child
so
to
much.
sit. Yeah, and my son's actually never been to school.
Oh,
I've
really?
kept him always home. Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
want to put him in the
cool.
system at all. But he needs to move. That's the one thing. Like when you want to, what do you want to learn new? What do you want? It's like it's always something in his body. He
That's right.
always wants to do, he's very embodied and he has a very good control of his body. But I really want him at this age to learn the healthy ways to express
Move.
that and
That's right.
mature that. So,
Well, and if you consider this, since he is not having formal training, most of what messes up our body is the formal indoctrination of wrong information. If he's never been to like boot camp and two-a-days for football and, soccer
he's
kicking,
in football though. He's taking football, like he is in a lot of sports, but
then maybe
he is
he is getting,
learning.
but if he's still keeping, so if you move as you did when you were little,
Yes,
you would maintain so much more of the integrity of your
right.
biomechanics. It's really the sedimentary life or the sedentary, I call it
Yeah.
sedimentary because it actually makes things
Oh,
like,
great sediment. Oh,
yes,
interesting.
it makes,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
I
yeah,
use the same term, but then people don't think that I know what I'm talking about. I do. A little bit, like I said in the beginning, a little bit.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's really a process of sitting. And if he's not, if he was left to his own devices and doesn't do 6 million, but then you need to refine the training. You do. I work with high school football players and NFL players, and it's really interesting to watch the development. Now, a lot of the people who get to NFL have such forgiving fascia, such like optimized physiology that they don't show signs with until later, like obscure and very like aggressive pathology. But most of us who are driving Hondas, that kind of conditioning in our schools and in our gyms definitely takes a toll.
Right.
But I think that if people just were to start and keep moving, and this is what I was going to say about the learning curve and wanting to move. If you think back to the history of the human race, our learning was always inextricably linked to our doing. You didn't learn to throw a spear by watching. You
Right.
learned to throw a spear by doing it. You
Yeah.
didn't learn how to shuck corn by watching, you did it by doing it. And so in this day and age, and you can still learn math and higher levels of like educational intellect, but you can do it through integrated it with motion. And what's interesting is that they're showing, and I think that this plays a part in, I'm neurodivergent. My daughter is neurodivergent. I just at 9 finally got we put her on medication, and it's a day and it's unbelievable the change, because that's what happened for me. But she learns by doing. And the fidgeting and all of this over compromising are, I think we're over diagnosing and under treating this very simple thing of kids have to move to metabolize their experience, period.
Yes.
People need to move to metabolize their experiences, period.
Yes.
So movement has to have a broader concept. It has to be applied more liberally, and it has to be integrated into our lifestyle intentionally, unfortunately, right? Like everything in today's world is about making things easy, not
Yes.
hard. And that ease is actually contributing to the atrophy of the human mind, the human body, the human resilience for struggle. We're just atrophying because of ease. And so now we have to intentionally seek out challenges, opportunities that, are that like invite struggle so that we can take action, because action is metabolizing. It's movement.
Right.
Action is movement.
That's how we grow. Like this world
Period.
of convenience and sedentary and everything's just easier. It's like it just atrophies everything about
Everything.
you.
We are just little
Everything.
blobs.
Okay.
Do you remember that movie from, I think it was like early 2000s? It was like this like little robot who lives on a planet. It was an animation.
Oh, the
Um,
intro to that one. Yes, when they're all sitting,
I
those
think about it
blobs.
all the time. Yeah. And then
Me too.
there's so much trash. What is it called?
I
E
can't
something, or I have to
I
find it.
can't remember, but that's where we are. With
Yeah.
those little blobs eating their crap,
And the
getting
floating chairs and
floating around. Yeah, on
watching
the yes,
screens.
yes. That's where we're at. Like, what's that going to do to people? This is not how we grow. This is not how we any in any way.
Well,
So,
and this
okay.
yeah, so you ask another question, but
No,
I was
well,
going
I
to say it
have,
brings
there's
another
so many
layer.
things. Well, you touch on, okay, there's something I want to ask for a friend, but
Yeah.
there's also, you touch on like big buzz things like how fascia affects your microbiome, how fascia is integrated to the way your brain works. Like it's like it integrates everything. And brain is a big buzzword these days. People's brains are not working very well. They're
They're
memory,
atrophying.
yeah, exactly. So,
Our algorithms are trying to make everything so digestible. It's like pre-chewed food. You don't have to think. You just have to enjoy. You
yes,
don't have to digest this. It's already macerated and just smudged all over your consciousness. It's literally disgusting how, like, I remember this was a frustration for me with Instagram and stuff. And I'm like, people are like, you're making this too hard for people. I'm like, what? They're
right.
like, all they want to do is just see cool things and be like thrilled and be like,
Yeah,
it's like
right.
literally pre-macerating. It's literally like feeding baby food to your mind. The mind needs to sharpen. I'm writing a book, and was talking to my agent, and she was like, it's crazy to watch the statistics, and I'm going to mess them up, so I won't go into them very fully. But the point is this, that on average, the American reading level, tolerance for reading level is fifth grade. The adult reading level for the American public is fifth
Wow.
grade. And we were accepting to read up to like I want to say 340 pages was the average length of a book over 20 at 20 years ago, and now it's under 250. That's the lowest tolerance. And then everybody else, no one wants to read, right? It's too
Yeah,
much effort. It's
right.
too hard.
Yeah.
So our brains are shriveling up, and then we're being fed this stuff that makes everybody reactive, like primal, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, now I'm going to fear this, and now I've got to get recognition for this, and our
100%.
social order is
And
chaotic.
even if you watch movies, there's like when you look at like older movies, there'd be like there's a lot of dialogue, there's
Yes,
a lot of things, and you're at a slow
it's
frame,
slower cuts.
right? And now it's like it's like constantly like it's changing constantly, 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 stimulating all the time, and
Yeah,
that's what people are getting used to.
toxic. It is toxic because
So
we're not digest. The point is, we can't digest at that rate.
Right.
So we're not really digesting it. So it just sits in our brain, and no
Right.
wonder we can't sleep, and no wonder we can't have a conversation, and no wonder I can't like manage my emotions, and I get over depressed and under, right? It's like we can't metabolize. We are becoming completely inefficient.
It's yeah, it's there's a bit, hopefully maybe we're gonna just have to hit rock bottom before we start coming up again. But for those who can see it ahead of time, listen to this. You don't have to hit rock bottom to make changes in your freaking life. But that just seems to be the human condition in so many cases, right? We have to hit rock bottom in so different ways before we make a different choice. So how does fascia integrate in how the brain actually is functioning?
Great question. I know little portions of it, and we're still discovering. We definitely know, and we're starting to see the relationship between the connective tissue system and the nervous system and how they interplay, their communication systems, and the body. Fascia is kind of the brain of the body, organ of consciousness of the body, the way that the brain is the organ of consciousness of mind. And they share this holographic experience of sensation, information, and then analysis and integration through brain and cognitive function. They require both and they integrate. One of the things that we're seeing is that it's deeply wired into our autonomic nervous system. So it's not just by choice. It's actually in this deep physiological milieu of happening that is communicating and translating life experiences with the brain. One of the interesting things is that they're researching is that a lot of fascia communication is sent to an area of the brain called the insula. It is also an area of the brain that is not really well studied. What we do know is that it is the area that gives meaning to our experiences. So we collect fascia as an organ of body consciousness, is responsible for our interoception, meaning how we experience things on the inside, and our perception, the way that our proprioception, forgive me, the way that we like relate to the world and know ourselves in space in relationship to others. So as the sensory organ, it is communicating and getting all these sensory experiences that are sent, and it's where the insula gives meaning. So I can go out and drink the wine, the fascia's, tasting and sensing the acidic levels, and this is a, underlying oak in my Chardonnay, or but it's actually the insula that says this is the last time that I had my wine with my mom when we were on the vacation in Italy before she died.
Oh,
Giving it this
interesting.
emotional like coherence. And this is where I don't have all this science to back this up, but people are starting to really start looking at like, why is trauma locked into our tissues in such a significant way? What is the imprint and indent that these things and emotional relationships have in our fascia that has a level of intelligence that kind of like rounds out our sense of self-perception, not proprioception, not interoception, but our perception, how we see ourselves in the world and the truth of who we are. And so those are up and coming. We know that there's a significant role that those play, and why we don't know yet why fascia is integrated into that area of the brain and what that means for us. But I like what you just said. And I think that this is kind of the takeaway here, which is you don't have to know how something works to start using it and making changes. You
Right.
don't have to hit rock bottom before you start being like, I'm just going to avoid rock bottom and start doing this, right? Like, self-direction is one of the most powerful things in life. I love it's the sovereignty, right? Like personal body sovereignty, personal choice sovereignty, emotional sovereignty, political sovereignty in our lives is really important.
Yeah.
And so being able to exercise that, I think it's an evolution of our access, comes down to knowing yourself better and being able to understand how you work and why, and make those choices before like you're it's not even before you have proof. It's almost like as soon as something resonates to you, investigate it, choose it, see it, learn it more, be intellectually effervescent. We tend to get stuck and rigid in our perspectives rather than being like, I like the sound of that. I have no idea what she meant, but let's go. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Why is that? Right? It's like an exploration. It's like the Zen beginner's mind, where
Yeah.
you're like, ask questions of why,
Yeah.
and explore those things. So that's what I have loved the most about my journey with fascia is it's this opportunity of a system that actually is asking the why, is making the connection that might seem layers away or slightly remotely related. But if you start to look for the connection, you'll see how integrated and how, truth, and it expands consciousness truly. I mean, that's the definition of expanding consciousness, is expanding the amount of data points that your body can, or that your mind can understand and perceive.
Right. Amazing.
And fascia plays a role in
I
that.
love that. And knowing yourself, that's a big one, because and that rigidity is a really important point too, because I find more than ever people are very rigid in their thinking. They
Right?
don't have the curiosity anymore. They're just rigid in their thinking, and they don't know who they are, and they base decisions often for reasons totally outside of themselves.
And that's so interesting.
Yeah.
But I wonder how, I mean, I feel like some of that is a human ailment, right? It's part of our own like individual spiritual growth, which will then expand out into global, evolution and spiritual enlightenment. But I feel like that's the danger of what's happening in our like Instagram feeds and our algorithms, and the danger of the AI. There's amazing things possible, but the danger of it is that it's restricting the natural need to overcome self, the need to have an ability for a brain that struggles and, becomes victorious, the ability to chew your own food and wrestle with the idea and come up with your own
Yeah.
conclusions, own your life, right? It's a,
Look what
it's
your
a,
pain did to you. It set the whole future path of your life because of what you went through.
that's
Right. And here we have people checking out because life is just too hard. Well, heck, people have had a lot harder lives than that. And it's just this inability to face your struggles because, but
and
how
we're
else
also
can you
given the
grow?
message. I'm so sorry I
No,
interrupted.
that's okay. Go ahead.
I just feel like we're also given the message in those pre-chewed ideas. We're given the message that if you're struggling, something is wrong with you, that you're not
Yes.
doing life right, that
Right.
struggle has been completely like mismarketed. And it's like, wait a second,
Essential.
struggle is the sign that you're doing life right. If you're not struggling, life is not happening to you. And if
Right.
you're not struggling, you're not growing. You're not turning the soil of your soul and having to question things. And so struggle is actually the sign of succeeding as a human, not failing. And I
Right.
really want that message to like turn around. These are the lies that we're being fed, where it's like, and I had to go through a lot of dark places, even beyond it started in my body and my physical pain, but even into my 40s, I have struggled and been like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I played the game. I have all these things going for, and I just have to be like, wow, like it's an interesting thing to be in a state of like allowance and being like, this may be it, and that's okay. You've got to be okay with the struggle. And if you look at all of the spiritual disciplines that held true spiritual value, they are teaching you that the struggle is important, that you are not trying to change life. You're allowing life to bend and mold and change you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of the secular
Yeah.
spirituality says, oh, you should be able to quantum that shit and make your life better. Quantum that. And you're like, I can't fucking quantum the field. Life is so much bigger than myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's yeah, it's these preconceived ideas. But if you don't, and the thing is the more you grow, the more your comfort zone expands. So then you got to challenge that and move on. And you can handle way more if you do the work. What would have crushed you, 30 years ago is just normal. And you can and you but
Right.
you don't know what you're capable of. And it's just a part of always learning who we are, and I just love it. And to me it totally jazzes me, all that. And that's why I keep learning and wanting to know, because I want to see what's possible and put it to the test and share others so they just take responsibility for their lives. So it's
I
super
love this idea that you said,
fascinating.
like, if you do the work, and I think about work a lot as movement, right? Take action.
Mm,
Whatever that is, you like keep movement, right? Rather than this sedimentary mindset and this sedentary like existence of like acceptance. This is just, what I am, but like stay proactive, stay taking like small micro movements in your life. And I think about that in terms of sometimes it's not just like for a long time, I was like, it's not just the work, it's the mechanics I use. It's how I move through this. Not that it's we, I think, and I see everything through this kind of biomechanical lens, and I think of the word bio as life, and it's like more than just the light, the body mechanics. I think of biomechanics as like mind mechanics. how do I leverage myself out of this circumstance? How do I change this thought process and create leverage to move through rather than getting stuck into a belief pattern, And so I think that life mechanics in a larger scale, biomechanics, is really the skills that we're never taught. Like, how do you handle this stress? One of the things I think about a lot, because I have three young children, I'm like, I don't want to make them successful. The goal of our parents was, we want to raise successful children. I want them to be successful. I said, I actually really want my children to know how to struggle well.
And the
Whether
idea, what is
they're successful,
successful anyways? Who defines that?
it's the
What is
defense. That's right.
successful,
That's right.
right?
That's
It's
right.
all these things on the outside that looks like, but so one of the things that my husband is, he coaches people and he loves working with people that look like they've got it all together on the outside. And you wouldn't think there's anything wrong with them, but on the inside, it is a complete and utter mismatch, right?
Mm,
That
yeah.
everything you think they have on the outside doesn't match on the inside. So true success, I think, is really getting that inside self, knowing who you are and dealing with that. I want to ask another question, but it's totally
Yes,
unrelated to
yes.
what we're just talking about right now. But and there's more, like we got to do this again because we got to talk about fascia and beauty and Botox
Oh,
and the
dude.
freezing of things. But that's another time because
I
that's
love that
like a
you
separate
understand how broad this is, that I cannot absolutely cover each thing at the same time.
no way. There's just too much. Yeah. So but okay. So I have a friend who's getting like a lot of hard things in her hands. And she's got like Dupuytren's, like her finger, and it's all this connective tissue. And I'm wondering, what is the fascial component of that? Like you feeling in her hands, it's starting, and she's trying to work with moving. And she's the friend that I said to you, this super excited. And she's like, when are you going to interview her again? Because when you, when you hear it at a different level, it's so life changing. The idea.
Yeah,
So what is that something like this hardening of these tissues and connective
really
tissue?
good question. There is connective tissue disease as diseases.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a whole book on it. Meaning that there are physiological things. There's like my sister's father-in-law had, I don't even know the name of it because I don't know the name of it. It's literally like your fascia becomes completely inanimated and rigid and almost like like stuck. You can't even move and it can kill you. It's a disease that is progressive and that can kill you. Having said that, a lot of the things that we think, like those are the extremes, right? It's like these bell curves. I remember talking to a friend of mine who's a pharmacist, and she's like, everything we monitor everything on this bell curve, where it's like on fascial disease and soft tissue disability stuff, we've got this side, and then we have the normal human race, and then someone's on everybody is somewhere on that bell curve. It could be that your friend does have actual, like a condition. And I am not really that versed in those. I could look it up in my book and see if there's something that matches. What I do know is that because of the condition of our tissues, a lot of the ways that tissue dysfunction is showing up is related to our autoimmune stuff, is related to our lifestyle, the ways that we like hold tension in our shoulders. So I have worked with people who have these locked fingers, and sometimes you have to go in and have surgery. My brother-in-law has this like condition where his ligaments in his fingers lock up, and the only thing they can do is go clean it out. It's not a carpal tunnel, but it's like actually like releasing the sinews. What he's finding though is that if you go through that surgery, soft tissue is really prolific at reestablishing itself. And so there is a risk that if you don't change the condition of surrounding tissue, like with stretching, with cellular remodeling, with all these other things, like a preventative approach, you're going to have that surgery again and again. And it gets more and more like dangerous and, less successful. So I don't know what your friend might have, but yes, I've worked with people and it can come from capsule issues and range of motion in the shoulders. I just
Shoulders
read the
are a
chart.
mess. Her
Okay.
shoulders are a mess. Let's
Okay.
just
So,
always
okay.
say, yeah.
Okay. So
Mm.
that is the first place to go. Because if her shoulder blades and her humerus and the capsule of her shoulder blade is functioning inappropriately, it literally will. So fascia, models very similarly to the cardiovascular system in the veins, where you have in the big areas of the torso and the thorax, you have arteries. Then in the limbs, you have veins. And then in the fingers and toes, you have capillaries. It's like that continuum where you have big structures in big areas and little structure in little areas. So if you have dysfunction in the fascial tissue in the big areas, it actually will stop the flow and glide down into the smaller distal aspects of your hands and fingers.
Right. Makes
So
sense.
neuropathy, we often will trace it back up into the larger thoracic structures. I'll stop playing with it. I'm ADD. Did you notice? Helping me think.
Yeah.
Um, sorry for the listener. I'm playing with the tube of fascia.
Yeah.
So um, that would be my first suggestion. I would go into her intercostals, her breathing apparatus, her scalenes, the back of her shoulder blade, and her subscapularis. All of these things are venerating down into the arm and show up in those areas. She probably does need to do some deeper structural remodeling through the carpal tunnel and into her fingers. Most carpal metacarpals will stop moving, and it creates additional stress into the soft and daintier tissues of the hands. So it's all related. And this is what I would say. The simple answer is yes, it's fascial related. You can treat the fascia both preventatively and rehabilitatively, like if there's already too much damage done. But she should also probably get a check in on her. They can do some blood work on autoimmune stuff to make sure that the actual inflammation isn't happening from a deeper physiological source.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing she's looking into, I'm actually doing another interview this afternoon. I don't know if you've ever heard of German new medicine, but that's another way to relate your experiences, the recording of that experience in the brain and the resultant body
Did
response.
you call it German New Medicine?
German new medicine. Yeah, it's a
I'm gonna
really,
type it in, please.
it's a fascinating. So that's another thing, and it has to do with self-evaluation stuff when it comes to the connective tissue. So
Oh,
it's a
interesting.
pretty fascinating area.
German? I'm just writing this down in my thing.
German new medicine. Yeah, I'm interviewing another woman this afternoon on that. But anyway, so okay, interesting. So that's super helpful. And she has been working on that. So I just thought
Interesting.
I'd ask.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
so the next time I really want to get into a few things, like, so we have to do at least one more, just one more for sure. But because this whole beauty industry and the idea of
Yeah.
what's beautiful, the idea that nothing moves and that's what's beautiful. But to me, that makes me think then you can't show emotions. You can't show, right? Like you can't
I love
express.
this song. I mean, there's this great, great lyric from Bono in a YouTube song. It says, "The lines on your face are a map to your soul."
Mm,
And I just love that because I'm entering in this. I don't know how old you are, but I just turned 47 this year. And I was feeling really, really confident about how I was aging until I hit 46 and a half, 47. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. There is a huge spike. So I started doing research and learning about the hormone influence and the blah, blah, blah. And my whole point is that, I think that we have to start working, like beauty is more than skin deep.
yes.
And from a fascial perspective, it actually comes first from structure. Fascia finds its volumized lattice orientation through the ways that it's connected to your skeletal system, not from the skin. The skin is actually the last expression of the structural integrity or tensegrity inside the whole matrix. That being said, is that I don't like to paint this like picture of perfection where fascia is the missing link of like, yeah, my elasticity and my like collagen is completely different. What is estrogen's role in this, right? Like, so I just did a deep dive on estrogen, and as we're heading towards perimenopause and menopause, like what's happening in the female body and the integrity of that influence on fascia. That's my key is not just, the hormonal reproductive and the hot flashes, but in the
Yeah.
connective tissue. So we can talk about it. I would like to, if you have me on again, will make sure to do more of my research. So
Yeah.
I have, if there is, and then I'll tell you what's hypothesis and what's not. But I think that my 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 note on fascia is like the greatest journey of fascia is a journey inward, and it's a journey towards loving and knowing yourself, and that beauty is from the inside out, and that you do have to wrestle with and start to change the way you change your principles of biomechanics, the science, you have to change the science of soul, where beauty is actually not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And that I think is really hard for women in our society,
Well,
right?
especially these days, it's completely the opposite. Women totally identify with how they look in the mirror. And I gotta know, I gotta say, I'm trying to keep it like I'm 53. And let me tell you, in the last few months, all of a sudden I'm just like, what is happening? And I've started doing some stuff and it's changing my
Helping.
face,
Yeah,
but still, it's like you still want to see what's possible, but women don't know who they are without the all this external
that's
work
right.
that
And
they're
we
having
we
done to
completely
themselves, and their
disappear in
whole
society.
self-worth is
That's
associated
right.
with that. And
That's right.
that is damaging and dangerous. And
Yeah.
it's not true.
Well, and you're going to live a third or more of your life completely dissatisfied if you don't change your values, if you don't change the values. And this is what I this is what I tell myself every day, and you think it's morbid, but it's not. I look at my children and they're starting to notice that, oh mama, why do you have, saggy skin like this, or why do you have this? And I'm like, let me tell you, kids, you'd rather me here than dead, and that's the only other alternative, right? The only alternative is to grow old. So love it,
Yeah.
right? Grow old or die. I have a friend, one of my best friends, has been fighting the worst case of leukemia for the last 8 years. And I
Mm,
have watched her completely fight for clinging to every moment of life. And it says, okay, give me a wrinkle. It makes me want to be like,
right.
give me a wrinkle, give me a sad.
Perspective,
Like,
right?
and
Mhm.
I really think women, that's one of the only ways forward. The only way forward is to value life more than you value beauty, to find beauty elsewhere, to put, and yeah, fight, like put estrogen cream on your face and do the things like I'll age gracefully, but I'll go fighting like hell. I want to
I
do
love
things.
what you just said. Value life more than you value beauty. And what is beauty as well?
That's right.
Because I'm telling you,
Beauty
the
is
idea
life. I
of
look at my
beauty
mom's.
today
Yeah.
is messed up. I'm
Yes.
sorry. These distorted faces that have been
Yes.
overstretched
It's
and
so
pumped up
weird.
is not beautiful.
It's not beautiful.
It's not
It's not
beautiful.
beautiful. I watched a documentary the other day and I wanted to look up this person. She just looks fabulous, but she's got wrinkles and but I'm like, oh, that is really inspiring because I just
Isn't it?
want beautiful women like yourself to be like, okay, like aging is beautiful. This is cool. It's okay. There was a post from St. Yves Laurent, like, couture, and they
Yeah.
had this beautiful, like, gray-haired Asian in a bikini, and she must have been at least in her late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And she looked amazing, but her skin wasn't, tin
I
taut, like,
right.
and I was
Right.
like, this
Amazing.
feels good. This feels really, really wonderful. So, um, yes, value life. And anytime that you're, sad, and do some fascial work. And I mean, I'll tell you how it goes for me. I do it every day. And
Yeah.
I find that my cupping set with my ostrich oil works really well. I find that my, exercise band that we do with the mouth, and there's things that totally work, that help. And I notice that I like it.
So let's
Um,
stop. Okay, so quickly, because I know you got to go. So wrap up. So, guys, Anna knows what she's talking about. She's got tools for you. She's got exercises you can do with or without her tools that she makes. She's got a membership program. She's got all sorts of stuff. So tell people how they can learn more about you and what you have to offer, and tell her the best way.
go to Ann. I never know. Go to annarae.com and we'll give all the lead. Like, I have a
Yeah.
company. You can find me at GST Body. GST Body is my Instagram handle, or Anna Ray Av GST, but you spell my name Rahe.
Yeah.
So remember, like Anna Rahe. I don't know why it's German. That's my name, Anna Ray. So, and I respond personally to everything. So ask questions. I really love to hear from people. And I have, in 25 years, I have a solution for most things. And if you don't find a solution, it'll set you on a journey that will help you find yours. That's really the goal, is just, having someone come a little bit ahead of you and set you on a path of discovery, and inquiry, and, the hunger for possibility. That's really the hope.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, we also got to get more into remodeling. The whole idea of remodeling the body
It's
blows
a
me
cool,
away.
I love
It,
it. And I
it, it
realize more and more that I mean, that was my passion. I don't really want to be a fitness movement person. I did everything I did so that I could remodel my body. I hated.
And you did, and I want to talk about that because I remember watching an old videos, and you were talking about how you had thick legs, and I'm like, what? You did? Because
Yeah.
you don't look like you ever did look like. You look like you've had a perfect body always, right?
Oh
And
no, I'm
so people,
searching.
there's so much that you can do just with your own self.
That's great.
It's
I
amazing.
mean, there's a thing called fascial plasticity, and we can go into that and how fascia is very agile and very adaptive. If you give it the right information and the right stimulation, you can really change how it's structured, and that's the point of cellular remodeling of the tissue. But it's very similar to neuro like plasticity, and being able to change your mind can be
Right.
done even by changing in your body, and they follow really similar principles of activation and the things that have to be present to do that. There's a good Huberman has a great a podcast on neuroplasticity, debunking some of the thoughts and elevating others. But so there's a lot of hope. I think that the whole point is that change is not only possible, it's mandatory.
Mm.
As a human, change or die, adapt or die,
Right.
struggle or die,
Right.
age or die. Like it's
Right.
all an honorary journey. It's an honor to participate in this life. And, don't think that you're going to change life. Think about changing yourself. Let
Yeah.
life be the fire that refines you. That refiner's fire that makes you gold, that takes off the dross, the things that you feel like burn you are actually removing the impurities, the things that don't really matter. And you will end up being, beautiful and shining and happy and content and whole. So that's my message.
Great message to end with, because that we're trying to fix everything outside of us. No, it's an inside job, and let
Inside
life
job.
change you, because that's what you have control over is yourself.
That's right.
Love that. Thank you, Anna. Hold on. Okay, everyone. I know you're going to love this. I know you did love it, right? So share, subscribe. I know there's so many people that could benefit from this information in this world where there's so much going on. We have to get to some fundamental basics, and we're all fascial creatures. We're all
Mm,
connected by fascia. We all have that in common. So this applies to everyone. I don't care what it else you're into. Has to be a part of it. So check Anna Ray out. Check her out on her Instagram. I'll have all the links below in the notes. And until next time, be well. Ciao.